All right, guys, welcome back. Job Offer Secrets, Chris Blanchard here. Today I'm going to go over one of my favorite interview questions to be asked, and that is, tell me about yourself. Okay, a lot of people dread this question. They don't want to talk about it. They're not quite sure how to structure it. But the reason this is my favorite question is it is your opportunity to highlight the most important stories that you think set you up for this job. Okay, if it's a job where you want to talk about a particular analytical project you worked on, but the interviewer never asks you about analytics, how are you going to tell that great story, right? So when they say, tell me about yourself, what they really want to know is how your skills meet the job responsibilities, okay? An HR manager, their job is to match candidates that have the right skills with the job requirements. They don't set those requirements. That's set by the hiring manager, whoever is going to actually be your boss in the future, okay? They'll say, I want someone who's analytical, who's good at collaboration, who's good at teamwork, right? And they're going to outline these specific skills that are needed to get this job done right, okay? So what you need to do is look at the job posting, do your informational interviews, do your research online about what people that do this type of work, what skills are needed. And then what you have to do is look at your past experience, whether it's actual experience or classes that you've taken, and you need to figure out how that experience makes you the ideal candidate for this role because it meets a need that they have. Okay, so anytime you're interviewing, what you want to do is identify your brand. Okay, what do you want the interviewer to walk away with thinking of when the interview is over? Okay, do you want them to think, man, that was the tall, funny-looking guy with the green shirt when they go back and talk to their other HR friends, or do you want them to say, man, that was that guy who did that awesome project where he was super analytical. I loved his experiences. I loved his questions. He was super analytical. He was his teamwork seemed like it's the best out of anyone we've interviewed, right? So you want them to walk away with 3 key attributes or brands that describe yourself, okay? So you identify what those are based off of, one, what are your actual skills, right? You don't want to make these up, but what are your actual skills? Second is, what does the job actually need, okay? So if you determine that the brand you want to portray yourself as is analytical, leader, and collaboration, right? What you're going to do in that question of tell me about yourself is you want to make sure you hit on all 3: teamwork, collaboration, or leadership, collaboration, and analytical, okay? So you want to make sure you hit on all 3 of those points. So what you're going to do is start with where you started your career. Usually you're going to talk about college, okay? So for me in particular, if I was applying for a job where they were looking for someone analytical, right? I would say, I started off my career as a mechanical engineer, and I started there, and about halfway through I realized I really don't want to be an engineer anymore. I wanted to go into business. I had started my own window washing business. I really liked what I was learning there, and I totally was geeking out about business. So something I really actually wanted to get into. Well, a professor of mine who was a good mentor, he started off as an engineer actually, went back to business school, learned how to do business, and he told me, he said, Chris, my MBA or my engineering experience was way better for me in business than my actual business education was. So if you go and get your engineering degree and you learn how to be analytical, that's going to help you in business because you're going to be able to think and solve problems better than anybody else. So that's kind of where I started, was in college, and I learned that I had this ability and skill for analytics, but I wanted to be able to apply it in a business world. So that's why I went back and I got my MBA, and that kind of taught me how to take those skills and make it into use those analytical skills in a business standpoint. Another really cool opportunity I had was to do my internship with Nestle Purina. And while I was there, it was super cool because I was working on licensing deals. And what I was trying to figure out is what type of product should I license together so that we can get a better bang for our buck. And so I got looking at some what we call basket analysis. And that's where you look at what types of products are frequently purchased together. And you can look at a metric called lift, and that tells you if someone buys product A, how much more likely are they to also have product B in their basket. Think about hot dogs and hot dog buns, right? If I go in the grocery store and I buy hot dogs, there's a pretty good, maybe a 90% chance that I'm also going to have hot dog buns in that same basket. But if I have hot dog buns, or let's say I have ketchup, I'm probably not super likely to have hot dogs, but if I have hot dogs, I'm probably really likely to have ketchup, right? So in this experience, I was able to uncover some really cool stuff where we had a partnership with another company. What I found out is that people who bought our product were 10 times more likely to buy this other product that we were partnered with than the average person. But someone who had that other product was no more likely to buy our product. So when I uncovered that insight, I told the brand manager over the brands I was managing, and he called up that other company on the phone that day to start renegotiating licensing agreement, because we were doing so much more for them than they were doing for us. Okay, so I'm done. That's the end of my my little spiel. As you see, that was a couple minutes, but what I really wanted to hit on is I started off as an engineer. An engineer going into a business role doesn't quite make sense, so I bridge the gap, right? I learn analytical skills there that are going to help me in business, okay? Second, I went into a story that I really wanted to talk about, okay? I loved my internship. I learned a ton there, and I was able to uncover all kinds of super cool insights. And so what I did is I wanted to talk about one in particular that I hope they ask me more about, okay? So then when I'm done answering that question, hopefully the interviewer says, man, Chris, that is so cool you're able to uncover that insight. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? Tell me about how you were able to work with other teams, right? So then that's when I'm able to go in and talk about collaboration, and I still get to talk about that super cool story. And that's kind of how I lead the interview. And I get the interviewer to ask me about the experiences I want to tell them about, because when they say, tell me about yourself, bam, I get to hit them right between the eyes with the stories that I think are most important. Right? That way I don't get stuck trying to answer questions like, what's your greatest weakness? Or tell me about a time when you had a disagreement with a boss or with a coworker, and how did you solve it? Okay? So those are the questions I try to avoid. You're always going to get asked them, but if you can make sure you hit on the right stories, then those are the stories you're going to talk about, right? It's like going to a restaurant with your friends and all they want to talk about is sports, but you have no interest in sports, right? But you went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and so of course you're going to talk about sports because that's where you're at. But if you're able to control that conversation and where it goes and be the first person to start the conversation, you can guide the conversation however you want to, right? So that's what we're looking at trying to do when you answer this question, is tie your past experience, school, projects, any type of work experience, and you're trying to tie that to the responsibilities that are needed in that role, and get the interviewer to start thinking about what experience they want to talk to you about. Okay, so that's all there is on this video. I wanted to give you guys a quick example of how to answer that question. It's my favorite question because every time I get asked it, I'm able to really steer and guide the interview. It's my favorite question. So like, subscribe, and follow this page. We're going to be putting out a lot more questions and answers on how to do different videos. If this is your first time watching, we've got a lot of other stuff that we've already done in the past and more stuff coming in the future. I've talked a lot about resumes and how to build those up. Over the next several weeks, I'm going to be going into answering specific questions that you will be asked in the interview, and then I'm going to follow that up with how to ask good questions. I think that's the real moneymaker, honestly, is asking the right questions in the interview. But I want to make sure we set the foundation, because if you can't have a good resume and get interviews, if you can't answer the interview questions up front and actually get to the point where they're asking you questions, it doesn't matter. So what I want to do is make sure that you have a good foundation laid, so that when it comes to asking questions, you've already set yourself up here, and now all you got to do is push the interviewer over the edge to let them know that you're the ideal candidate. Okay, so thanks for watching. We'll see you next time, and go out there and get some jobs. Talk to you later.